what do we do to have and create better candidates? What can we do in terms of creating a bench and fielding better candidates? Ron, you want to start?
Thanks, Mike. I think the absolute best place to train Republican candidates to run for state office is in local government. When I became party leader in San Diego, one of the first things we did is we disposed of the quaint notion of the so-called nonpartisan election. There's no such thing as a nonpartisan election. Every elected office, whether it's city council, school board, water board, fire board, mosquito abatement district, you name it, every local government office in the state is an opportunity to put Republican ideas into action. And speaking as someone who was a school board member, if you go to any school board meeting, first you see organized labor there, sitting there in the front row, keeping an eye on, and Lexi knows this from her school board tenure as well, in terms of watching what's taking place there, being very involved. And if we're not involved in local government elections, who is going to be involved? Who's going to be the dominant political force? If it's not us, it's going to be organized labor. And so when we elect Republicans to those mayor's offices and those city councils and other offices, they get valuable experience. They become better candidates. They're better prepared to move forward. When we took a look at the people who had successfully been elected to state office in San Diego, the odds were that the most successful candidates were people who had previously been elected to local government office. They built a base, they're political entrepreneurs, they become the head of their own political enterprise. It gives them the resources they need to go forward. It's also a great vetting process. If you come out of the private sector and you try to pole vault to a top elected office without having run for anything before, you don't go through the same type of vetting. It means that everything in your background becomes a revelation. But when you've been elected to lower office before, things that occurred before, prior to your election become old news. It's why the news media didn't give as much attention to what Jerry Brown said that was silly 30 years ago, but would give an incredible amount of scrutiny to every decision that Meg Whitman had made in the private sector because it was her first run for office, whereas with Jerry Brown, that had all been reported on in the past.
Thanks. Minute 58. I don't know how he does that. Terso?
Let me see if I can do it.
All right. All right.
I think the most important thing is
Oh.
the most important thing is that the state party has to have a candidate selection committee, which is responsible, together with the county organizations, in selecting candidates for the Assembly, for the Senate, statewide, and Congress. This committee should have representation of the Assembly, the Senate, and the Congress. And they should participate, and they should, at all times, be part of the decision-making process. I also suggest that a representative of the business community be part of that. This will create a unity that is very important. I think that we have to be more selective in our candidates. There's a lot of people that think that they can be running for Congress, they can be running for the Assembly and the Senate, and they have very little experience, like Ron said. I have a lot of people that come to me seeking my endorsement very early in the campaigns, and the first thing I ask them, what is your relationship with the state party? Well, what is that, and what do they do? They don't even know what is the role of the state party. I think it's very important to select men and women to run for office that not only have the intellectual ability to do so, but they also have certain amount of capability to raise funds. Particularly among the minorities, they believe that the state party role is to roll them to their campaign, and that we, in effect, finance their campaign. In my estimation, there's a lot of people who mean very well, but they don't have the means to be able to get elected. Particularly, again, I express to you in the minority community. I just believe that we cannot have the Assembly running a candidate or favoring a candidate, and the state party a different one, and the county a different one. Again, the leadership of the state party is very important, and you have to have a selection committee that would work together with the county candidate selection committee and come together at the end of the day endorsing or helping, aiding and abetting that candidate once it wins the primary. This unity is absolutely necessary. In doing so, we can get candidates that philosophically agree with us. Many a times, we have candidates that do not agree with the platform of the party, and their goals are totally different than what a party is.
Thanks, Tirso. I agree with everything that's been said, and I would just add a couple of things. There is most of everything that's going to occur in terms of creating candidates is going to happen on the level that we all live on, which is at the county level, on the volunteer level. That is where, and I completely agree with the comment that Ron Nearing made, which is there are no nonpartisan races. Every county in this state and every county in the nation should have a strong endorsement committee process where everything from water board on up is looked at and those candidates are vetted. And all the Republicans should know if a Democrat's running that that person is a Democrat and what their views are and how they don't sort with us. And if possible, your county should have a slate card that goes out to every elected Republican. They do it very effectively in San Francisco to us, so in counties where we can do it to them, we should. That is where our candidates come from. They come from the water boards and the city councils and the county supervisors and that sort of thing. The second thing is, in California, we've completely shot ourselves in the foot by passing rules that prohibit the state party. We have a new Prop 14, which has made essentially made races for Assembly, State Senate, and Congress nonpartisan, where the top two run in the general. Whether they're it could be two Democrats, could be two Republicans. We don't get to have a nominee anymore. And this was passed by moderates because they were tired of losing. Primaries to us straight up, and so this was their answer to it. We then compounded the damage to ourselves by passing rules over Ron Nearing's objections. He had a plan where the party would have had the ability to speak and said, well, this person's the conservative that espouses conservative views. That is what, and instead a plan passed that doesn't allow the Republican Party, and Republicans, we did this to ourselves, cannot express an opinion as to who we think the true Republican is in a race anymore. That's something that needs to be reversed.